everybody, welcome to this little video for Lisa Horton's box kit number 4, the Floral and Festivities kit. We're going to be making this Twisted Easel card today, which as you can see will involve some overlay stamping for the background and some masking for the little flowers on the edge of the Twisted Easel part of the card. Okay, so let's make a start. First of all, we're going to be using a 7x7 card blank, and the first thing we need to do is make our Twisted Easel part of the card. So I'm just going to bring my scoreboard in, and you'll see here I've done a line down the middle which helps me if I'm doing a diagonal score line. So I'm just going to score down the centre here of this card in order to give us our diagonal fold, like so. I'm going to turn it round, fold the card inwards, burnish that score line. Okay, so there you've got the basis of your Twisted Easel already done. Alright, now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add on our front piece. Now you'll see on the original that there is a small matten layer here, because I didn't want this piece to sit right up at the edge of the card. Okay, you can just see that tiny little matten layer there. So what you need to do is cut a piece of card, a square piece of card that is exactly the same size as your card base. Then on the lower left part of your card, make a mark 1/2 inch from the bottom, and at the top right piece of your card, make a mark 1/2 inch in from the right hand side. And then you're going to cut across the diagonal between those two lines. That will give you your triangular piece to place on the front of your Twisted Easel card, and then you'll be able to allow that slight little matten layer on the bottom and down the side ready for your topper. Okay, so what we now need to do is add our flowers to our piece of card, and we're going to stamp the flowers across that diagonal piece that you've just cut. We stamp them in from the edge, and then what we'll do is cut them out so that they stand proud of the card. It's a little bit fiddly, but I do think it's really worth the effort, and I think it looks quite effective by the time you've finished cutting everything out. So there are 17 stamps in this box kit, and the one I'm going to be using first is this fabulous little flower. I'm using 2 VersaFine Clair ink pads, one in a gorgeous red and one in an orange. And I love the VersaFine Clair ink pads because I do think they give a really good image, because they're such juicy, fabulous ink pads. Now what you're going to be doing is you're going to be stamping on along the edge of this card here. So let's get into the stamping. Now we're going to be using, as I say, VersaFine Clair, and I'm using Tulip Red and Summertime. So I'm going to start at the top with the orange. Okay, ink it up really well, and then stamp your flower onto here so that you've got, doesn't matter that it's not a full flower, but you need your flower to be right on the edge of this card. All right, so your petals need to be on the edge of that piece of card. So I'm going to go up at the top. Don't mind if it's over the top, but I'm going to leave it like that. Okay, so that's your first piece done. Right, now then, because we're going to change colour, we need to mask this off. All right, now I've cut a lot of these masks here. If I just show you what I've already done, I've already cut mine out. Okay, so I've just made myself enough masks that I'm going to be able to use a mask per flower rather than moving the mask along. So then what we're going to do is we're just going to mask off that flower there, like so, and then we're just going to clean off our stamp just by stamping it onto a piece of card. I'm not going to clean it off because I don't really think it's necessary, to be fair. So again, ink it up with plenty of ink and then stamp it. Now I would overlap your image onto the flower below. all right, because again that's going to give you some stability when you come to cut it out, all right. So stamp it near the edge and touch in the flower underneath. Leave it down for a little bit to transfer the ink and then lift it up gently. See, that's a perfect image. And again, add another mask so that you can then go ahead and stamp the next one. All right, so we're going to go along like that until we've stamped all of these flowers along here. Okay, so we've stamped all our flowers. Now obviously if we leave it with just flowers it's going to look a little bit boring, isn't it? So what I thought we would do is we would add some leaves in. Now obviously the leaves are going to be behind the flowers, so you aren't going to need to worry too much about masking so long as you don't overlap any of the leaves behind the flowers here. Okay, so what you don't want to happen is for your leaves to touch along here. All right, so let's start. I'll turn it round so that we can see what we're doing, and then we're just going to go in and add our leaves quite randomly behind our flowers. Okay, we will mask these off in a moment because what we want to do is add our background to this piece of card. All right, so we will add the masks to the leaves so that when we come to do the background stamping then it doesn't interfere with any of these leaves. All right, now I've got a tiny weeny bit missing there, so because these stamps are clear I should be able to go in and just add the green at the bottom there. I'm sorry if you saw my head there. So we're just adding the leaves quite randomly to our card. Doesn't matter if they're off the edge, doesn't really matter at all. Okay, I think that's quite enough. I don't think you need to go too mad because obviously you don't want to detract from the flowers. Okay, so now we've done all our masking of our flowers, we just need to add the masks onto the leaves, because what we're going to do next is this background stamp in here and put our sentiment on. Okay, so if I just go ahead and add these little masks to the leaves. Okay, so we've added all our masks to our leaves. Now what we're going to do is add the sentiment in here. And for that I'm going to use two of the word stamps from the box kit, birthday and wishes. I'm going to stamp them down and then I'm going to mask them off in order that I can start and stamp my background. I'm going to stamp it in green to match the leaves because I just want all the colours to tie in really nicely. So we're going to stamp this down here like so, making sure that we're not on any of those leaves because we don't want those leaves to interfere with our sentiment. And just make sure you leave it down a little bit just so that you can ensure that it all stamps beautifully. And then the wishes underneath. Okay, so what we need to do now is just mask that off, and you can see I've stamped the birthday and the wishes onto paper and cut them out. These are like little post-it notes. If you've got masking paper then obviously that's going to work even better, but I've run out of masking paper so I'm just using post-it notes which are equally as good. Okay, so now I'm going to make my background. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use two of the little element stamps, I suppose you'd call them, from the set. This is sort of like a tea stain, and then these are like little bubbles rather. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp them in second generation ink because I don't want the background to overpower these flowers. All right, so what I'm going to do is make sure that I've got a piece of card next to me so that I can stamp the ink off onto my card, and then I can stamp here onto my base piece of card. Now again I'm using VersaFine Clair, I'm using the red and the orange. I'm also using a little ink pad from Hobbycraft because it was the right colour for what I wanted to use. And I'm also going to use a different VersaFine Clair. This one's called Golden Meadow. It looks yellow on the box, but actually it's quite a lovely olivey green. So I'm going to use that one as well. I think I won't use the orange actually. I'm going to use this one instead because it's more of a peachy orange. And then this one's a lovely red. Okay, so let's just start with our stamping. I'm going to start with the peachy colour. And like I said, I'm going to do second generation stamping. So I'm going to blot my stamp first onto my card and then add it to my background. Okay, and I'm just doing this so randomly. I haven't got a plan where I'm going to place these at all. They just go in wherever I land. So always blot your ink first, and then you will get a second generation ink so that it's there, it's in the background, but it's not overtaking the main part of your card, which is these flowers down the edge here. Okay, so as I said, really random. Doesn't matter where you go, how many you put on, but don't forget you're going to be putting other colours on top of this one. Alright, so that's my peach colour done. I'll just put my lid on there, and then just wipe off this ink off here, and then we're going to go in with our red. Okay, so again, now you have to be careful with this because it's quite a deep red. So when I say second generation, sometimes it might even be third generation, because the VersaFine is so pigmented. You don't want it again to overtake what you've already done, but you can overstamp the bubbles that are already there. Yeah, and it just gives it a completely different look and just an interesting background without being what I would describe as in your face too much. Okay, so I'm not going to go too heavy with the red. Let's just go here a little bit, just so that there's some in the middle of the flowers and the leaves. Okay, I think that's enough. And then finally we're going to go in with that Golden Meadow, that lovely olivey green. I'll just get rid of most of the red off here, and then I can go in with this lovely olivey green. And again, taking off quite a bit of ink before I stamp it down onto my card, because I don't want it to overpower everything else. Okay, and I just think it's a really lovely way of making your own background. So if you want to save the papers out of the kit, then you can do, because you can make your own backgrounds using the fabulous stamps that are in the kit as well. I just think it's a lovely way of extending the use of your kit, really. Okay, so I think that's enough. And just do a couple up here, just to fill in that little white space there. Okay, happy with that. So I'm going to leave that at that. I'll just put the lid on my ink pads and move those out of the way for now. Okay, so if we peel our post-it notes off, and we can take all our masks off our leaves, and then off our flowers, and if we take them off as we added them, okay, so there's your base for your card. Now obviously these aren't sitting proud, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to cut around the edge of these flowers. We're not worried about the white space in the middle here, we're just taking off this edge to give us this effect that sits over the edge of our easel. Okay, so if I just go ahead and cut that out, and you can listen to a little bit of music. So there's the edge of our flower. Now you can see here at the top there's a little white piece there. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to take that off or not. I'll just wait and see what it looks like once I've added it to my card before I make that decision. Okay, so then we can add this to the front of our card so that we can get that piece done and finished. Okay, so if you see here now, you can sit this on the edge of your card, and when you open your card out, once you've glued this down, it will sit proud of your edge and it'll give you that pretty edge here. I think I will cut that bit off just so that it looks similar to this end. I could probably have added another flower down here, but I don't really think it's going to make that much difference, to be honest. Okay, best thing is it's not going to get damaged with people opening and closing the card. So if I just cut that little piece off there first before we go any further, and then we can just add this to our card, and that's the front done, and then we can concentrate on the inside. Okay, so I'm using this fabulous Lisa Horton glue, high tack glue. You won't need much, just enough to give you a grab along the edge of your card. It's such fabulous glue, this. And then we're going to add this down on here. You can make the matten layer a little bit bigger if you wish, just to make it look a little bit more even. Okay, so I've had my glue along there and my glue along here. Alright, so that's the front of my card finished. Okay, so now we can concentrate on the inside. So on the inside, we're going to have a matten layer squares, and again we're going to make a background here on our card for the inside. All right, so I don't want to do the whole of this piece of card. What I want to do is just have an edge all the way around this square where I'm going to write all my greeting and everything. All right, so if I put the card to one side, because we don't want any ink where it shouldn't be, so if I put this down on here, now bear in mind this is going inside my card, but I am going to use it as a guide so that I can do my stamping around the edge. Okay, again I'm going to use the same bubble stamp because I just think it's really effective and I want it to match the front. But I'm also going to use this fabulous tea stain stamp as well, okay, because I just think that adds a little bit of extra interest to the inside of the card. So again, we're going in with the same three colours that we used before, the red, the peach and the olive green. All right, so we're going to start off with the peach because obviously it's the lightest colour. So when you're overlay stamping like this, always go with the lightest colour first. So just randomly stamp your bubbles. Again, second generation ink all around the outside of this frame. Now your card isn't going to move very much, if at all, if you're really careful and hold it down. So if I just go around the edge and do all this stamping. So that's my peach colour down first, alright? And then I'm going to go in with my red, because the green I'm going to do with the tea stain stamp. Okay, I'm just going to do two with the bubbles, and then I'm going to go with the green with the tea stain stamp, just to give it a little bit of a different look. So again, randomly round the edge here. It doesn't matter if you overlap anywhere, it doesn't matter if you've got a little bit more ink in one place than another. It's all about adding interest to the inside of your card so that it matches the outside. So you can see I'm not always going with the full stamp, I'm only using little bits of it on occasions, but I am making sure that I take quite a bit of the ink off, because as I've said, this red is quite vibrant and you don't want it to just be totally overpowering, but I do think I just think it adds a little bit of interest, and just lifts the inside of the card so that it matches the outside. Okay, so we'll leave that for there, and then we'll go to the olive green, the beautiful olive green. And again, we're going to use this tea stain stamp, but again, second generation ink, because we don't want this to overpower all those bubbles. So this is just going to sit quite randomly around the edge of your card, just to give it a little bit of a different look, really. I do like tea stain stamps on things. I just think it adds a sort of a little bit of antique-y effect, if you like, as if somebody's left a coffee stain or, you know, a coffee mug in the wrong place. So I think that'll do. We don't want to go too OTT, do we? Some people might say that is, but hey ho. Okay, so now we're going to flip this over. So what I am going to do is lift this up slightly, because I want this to be a little bit raised on the inside of the card. All right, so I'm just using some sticky pads just to raise it up on the inside. I'll just put a couple in the middle there, just so that it doesn't sink in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to peel those off. And then add our square to the middle here. And we know where it's going to go because we've stamped around it, so it gives us a natural marker to lay it down again. Okay, there, lovely. So this is going on the inside of our card as our inner, so we can glue that down there. I'm going to just add a little bit in the middle, not that I really need it, but just for security really. And then we're just going to add that into the middle of our card. Have a little bit of wiggle room with this glue, not a great deal, so you need to be as accurate as you can really. Okay, so that's our overlay stamping done on the inside, and our masking and layering on the outside. All right, so obviously now we need a stopper for the inside of the card, and again I'm using the same flowers, and what I've done is I've stamped 5 flowers, 1, 2, 3, yeah, 5 flowers onto a piece of card, again with the masks, and then I've added a couple of leaves. What I did was stamp them all out and then cut them out, and then I added them to another layer of card and cut it out again. And if when you're cutting out the bottom layer, so you've got your top layer with your stamping on, and then you've got another layer of card underneath, if when you're cutting it out you leave your scissors at a slight angle, you will find that you will cut the card underneath at a slightly more at a slightly harsher angle. So you shouldn't have any white bits of card sitting proud of the pieces of card on the top. All right, however, if you do, you know, you're not very good with scissors or one thing and another, do not despair, because there is a way around that. If I just show you how I just made sure that I got these in the right place, I started off with a piece of card, and I used one of Lisa's double aperture circle stencils, and I just drew a pencil line around that stencil. Okay, and then what I did was made sure that I stamped the flower inside that circle. So if I show you, I'm using a different colour, but it won't matter. So I'm going to stamp my flowers so that the leaves, the petals, are sitting just outside that circle. Okay, now obviously I would be masking these, so if I just mask this off like so, and then stamp my next flower. You can see that I'm going all the way round the circle. So once I've got these stamped out, then I'll be able to cut them out. Okay, so I'm going all the way around this circle here. I'm adding my 5 flowers all the way around. It's just quite difficult to get these masks in the right place, even though you've stamped them with the same stamp, but it just takes a little bit of time, and you'll have far more time than I've got, so it's not difficult. It's a little bit fiddly, but I do think it's worth the effort. Okay, so that's my next one, and then finally, so I'll put that on there properly, otherwise it's going to ruin the effect. And then finally I'm going to add my 5th flower here. Okay, so I've got a circle of flowers. Now obviously I would leave those masks on and then just add my 2 sets of leaves. So if I've stamped them, then my leaves are going to come out like so, alright, either side of that circle. Then when this is dry, you can rub off that pencil line. It's not going to make any difference to the ink underneath. Okay, so I would stamp it out, cut it out, add it to a piece of card and cut it out again. And the only reason I say that is because it's the stopper for your card. You want it to have a little bit more rigidity than it would with just one piece of card. Okay, so this is just one piece of card. And this is why I realised that I needed 2 levels of card rather than just the one. Okay, so that looks a little bit flat on its own. So what I thought I would do is zhuzh it up a little bit, and I'm using Lisa's Sprinkle of Twinkle sparkle pens. They're absolutely gorgeous, fabulous colours, such rich colours. And I'm just going to go over this red with my red pen. And of course the other thing that this does, apart from adding a little bit of sparkle to your images, it will enable you to get rid of any white lines around those petals. So if I just go around this and add my sparkle pen, okay, so I've added my red to my flowers, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of sparkle to the leaves, because it's not fair for the flowers to have sparkle and not the leaves. And if you're going to do one, you might as well do the other. And again, it will give you the opportunity to get rid of any white edges that you weren't able to get rid of while you were cutting out. Okay, now then, you will see, if I lift this up a little bit, I don't know whether you can see the sparkle there, but trust me, it really is there. But you might see some little black marks here, which is where the ink has soaked through the post-it notes and just left a little impression on the flowers underneath. Don't worry about that too much, because you're going to put some flowers on the top of here as well. Okay, so if we move to the flowers that are going on the top, and then what we're going to do is shape them first. So I've stamped out 3 orange flowers, and again what I've done is cut them out because I want to shape these flowers. Okay, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to shape them before I add my sparkle to them. So I'm just going to go on the back of the flowers, just using a little ball tool out of my craft stash, and just shaping those petals round a little bit. I'll do the backs first, just to give them a little bit more interest, really. Okay, just so that they're not sitting flat on top of those red ones, because those red ones give you your base for your stopper. I want these to add the interest to the top of your card. So we're just going to push down in the middle so that they've got some shape. Okay, now what we're going to do is add our sparkle pen. So you'll see I've avoided the middles there, and that's because I'm going to add some glitter in there just to lift them a little bit. I've just missed one piece of orange there, so let me just add that there. And again, this gives you an opportunity to just get rid of those white parts where you've cut it out. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of glitter. Any sort of glitter that you've got in your stash is absolutely fine. I just chose a colour that I thought matched in with my colour scheme, really. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit of glue in the middle, and I'm adding the glitter before I've put the flowers down, just so that it doesn't go all over the rest of the card. So if you add the glitter first, then you're not going to make a mess on your card. Okay, so if I just add this in here, that looks a little bit overkill, but I'm going to shake most of it off, so don't worry about that. So I've got my 3 flowers with my glitter in the middle to our stopper then. Now we just need to decide where on our card we need our stopper. Alright, now I'm going to be using these 3 points here as my stopper. Alright, I've added some 3D pads on the back of this because obviously I need it to sit a little bit proud of this piece of card so that it actually stops my card like I want it to. Okay, so I'm going to peel the back off my 3D foam pads. So now you just need to decide where on your corner you want to place your flowers. Okay, now I'm quite happy with that, because you can still see the corner. It's not infringing too much on that centre square, and I think that's going to look just perfect where it is. Okay, so you can see it acts as your stopper on your card. Alright, but I didn't want to leave it there. I wanted to give this a little bit more interest, so hence my orange flowers on the top. And as I say, because I've given these some sort of shape, they're just going to look a little bit different on the top here. Alright, so I'm just going to add those. Now you can see that they've quite beautifully covered any little marks that you might have on the flowers underneath. So never worry about that. If you're putting 2 layers down, don't worry about that, because you can always cover them over. There are no mistakes in crafting. There are just happy accidents. Okay, I'll just add my glue to the back of the flowers, like so, and slot that down there. Same with the third one, slot that down there, just to give it a little bit more interest. Okay, so there's my stopper finished. Alright, now the last thing that I want to do is just add some little gems on the front. Now I'm actually going to use Lisa's dewdrops, which come in 2 different colours. There are a clear set and a pastel set. So I'm just going to lift some of these little peach dots here, and I'm going to hold this in my hand because obviously my flowers aren't dry yet, and I'm just literally going to randomly place these on the front of the card, just quite randomly, just to add a little bit of interest to the front of the card. Now I didn't press that down properly. They do stick fabulously, these little dewdrops, and I just think it's a really pretty way of just adding a little bit of sparkle without going over the top. And I'm putting an odd number because I just think an odd number always looks best, and this one's going up here. So they're barely visible but visible enough for people to notice when they open your beautiful card. It's quite difficult to show an easel card on camera because of the very nature of how it stands up, but I do think when a recipient receives your card and is able to stand it up on their table at home, well, I just think it's a really super little card to receive. Okay, so there you have your easel card using the Floral and Festivities Box Kit number 4 from Lisa Horton Crafts. Thanks very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye for now.